This video is a replay of a trade I took today. Now, it probably goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. I am not a financial advisor, and trading entails risk. Just because I got these results today doesn't mean that I can get these every day, nor that you can. Remember, the entire premise of the investing project and the $1 million experiment is that I am not an expert, and yet I am learning how to do this. So for heaven's sake, don't just blindly copy me. Instead, find a mentor, someone who is an expert, and join their community. Pay for their mentorship. This approach has worked very well for me, and it likely will for you too. So use this video partly as education and partly as inspiration. After all, if I can learn this, you can too. All right, we had a pretty good trade today. Actually, pretty good. We had a really good trade today, excellent trade, and this was on the YM. Now, the funny thing is, you can see right after the market opened, the YM just took off. And so if I zoom in here on the 5-minute, you can see that the YM just took off with this huge 5-minute upward bar. It went from about 870 to like 250, then all the way up to 270. So, it went up about 400 points. And I wasn't upset about missing that. I mean, there's no setup there. There's nothing you can do about that. I was a little annoyed about missing the short. And actually, to tell you the truth, I didn't miss the short. I opted not to take the short. And the reason I said no to it is because right around the time where I was pulling back with this wick here and another wick and the red first red bar, the opportunity to get in would have been right about here. Let's just say right about here, and that would have been a brilliant trade. Well, it would have been a good trade, but I opted not to take it because right around the same time, the ES and the NQ started heading upwards, and I thought, you know what, I just don't want to be. Oftentimes, these guys play catch up, and I don't really want to be short this one when these guys decided they're going to the moon. So I opted not to take that trade. And I was actually surprised at how far it retraced before it then turned around. However, it was the turnaround that I got into. So after 1, 2, 3, 4 red bars, we had the first green bar. I put in the buy with 4 contracts right here. Was it 146, 145 was where I got in. I mean 045, right there. And this is one of those ones where, fortunately, I left it alone and let it do its thing. And I've mentioned this in past videos where the thing I really need to do is put the trade on and leave the room. Now, I did lower this a little bit, so it was down here slightly below. So I took 120 handles of risk on the YM. But then I let it go, and it did its thing. It took a little while to get it oriented correctly, but it did its thing. And it was kind of messing around here too. I wasn't quite sure whether this was going to be a problem. I looked at this, and I briefly flirted with the idea of putting my stop down here below the previous day's low, so that I would have the opportunity to add. But the reason I fundamentally didn't do that because it was just a little too far away. I thought it would be better to just take the loss and then put it on again if it happened to come down here. But it didn't. It didn't come down there. It did eventually head in the right direction. And so we'll let this play out. It took a little while for it to happen. And this is what I mean about put the trade on and then get out of the way. And that's essentially what I did this time. Now, the way I have these brackets with 4 contracts set up is that once it's so you see the four contracts here with the 120 handle loss. Once this goes 100 handles in the right direction, I move everything up to break even, but then I split it so that 2 of the contracts will continue to trail behind the 100 points behind the leading edge here. That way I know that I'm locking in some profits while I leave the other 2 down here, and in order for me to not lose on the trade, but to give it enough room for it to get up to the second target. So the first target is set at 200 points, and on 2 contracts, that's $200. And so it goes and hits that target pretty quickly, and then it started heading up. And I have to admit, I did actually tinker slightly. I moved this up to the previous 5-minute bar, and I said I'm not giving back more than that. And then at some point along the way, it had come down a fair ways and then started heading back up again. And I said, I'm not giving back more than I want at least the 200. So I moved my stop up to where it would have been $200, an additional $200. However, it did go up and trigger the second target at the 300 point level, which gave me a perfect 500 points on this trade, which is exactly what I'd set out to do. So this was a perfect trade with respect to the bracket that I put on. So $500. Thank you very much. I'll take it.